Welcome to WQLN PBS. I'm Miss Molly, and today we are going to be talking about pets as family. I have brought my pet here, Wagner, to his dog school. This is his teacher, Miss Els, and she has been teaching us some things.
Hi everyone, I'm Miss Els. I'm Wagner's teacher and also Miss Molly's teacher. Wagner's been coming to our Something Else dog school for a few years now. He started with the simple stuff, the sitting and the waiting, and now he's off doing agility, and he's doing actually pretty well.
So he goes to school just like you do. You're learning your ABCs. He's learned his sits, stays, and comes, and now he's doing agility. Do you want to see some of his agility? Let's see that, and then a little bit later we're going to get started on some art. Okay, jump, tunnel, jump, weave, jump, 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 tunnel! Good boy! Welcome back to the studio. I'm so glad you were able to come to the dog school with me and Wagner and see how he learns and what he learns about. It's just like you. You go to school and learn like your ABCs. He goes to school and learns sit, stay, come. And the more you learn with your ABCs, you'll start putting together words and sentences. And the more he learns, he's able to do different things at the dog school, like jumping and going through a tunnel. Well, we're going to look at some artwork today that artists did of pets, and that some of them are actually their pets, and then we're going to be able to read a book about a very famous artist and his pet cat, and we'll also be able to create an artwork. Are you ready to look at some of these artworks? So we have here Andy Warhol. This is a famous artist named Andy Warhol. This is one of his cats. He had a lot of cats and they all had the same name, Sam. So he did an ink blot painting of Sam. Now I know this is a black and white painting, but he painted this cat a little different. His cat really wasn't this bright red, was it? It's a little different. This was called an ink blot print, and he used it with ink. He created it with ink. I like how colorful he did that cat. So you don't always need to do it exactly the way it looks. Now our next one's Frida Kahlo, and she had a lot of pets. She was a Mexican artist, and you can see in this picture right here, can you tell what that is? She had a pet monkey. Isn't that unusual? And she loved that monkey so much that when she created a self-portrait or a picture of herself, she incorporated her pet monkey with her. If you had to do a picture of yourself, a self-portrait, what kind of animal would you include? If you don't have a pet, you could include something that you might want to have. Can you think of some things you would have? If I was to make a self-portrait of myself, I could do a picture of myself with my dog Wagner, or maybe I could get magical and include a unicorn. I'm thinking of all the colors and things I could add in the background with that one. David Hockney's next. You can see him sitting on this couch. He has two dachshunds. Those are two long dogs. And look at all the dog paintings he did. In his home, his dog sleeps on a little doggy bed. Are you thinking where your animal might be if you did a painting of an animal in your house? A pet? If you had a little hamster, would he be sleeping in a cage? If you had a fish, would he be swimming in an aquarium? Where might you put a cat if you did a cat? Well, maybe he was in a cat tower, or on a windowsill. So when the artists paint their pets, they always sometimes include a place in their house that their pet might like. Here's Paul Klee. This is who we're going to focus on today. Here he is. Look at this big fluffy cat around his neck. He created a very famous painting called Cat and Bird. It's a picture of a cat, just the face, and that's called a portrait. Can you say portrait? Portrait. And here's a little bird up in his head. I think that cat might be thinking about a bird. We're going to learn how to draw this cat today, and we're going to also incorporate something that we think our cat might be thinking about. We'll put it up in their forehead. What are some other things your cat would be thinking about? I'm thinking what I know about cats and what they might like. Maybe it's a ball of yarn. Maybe it's a fish. Maybe it's even the sun. I know I see some cats laying on a chair that has through the sun coming down through the window. All right, so now before we read our story, I want to draw with you. I want to tell you a little story about my good friend. If you would like to draw with me, you're going to need to go grab something to draw with and a piece of paper. So maybe a pencil, crayon, or marker and a piece of paper. I'll tell you the story, and we're going to go step by step drawing, and we'll see who my best friend is. Are you ready? All right. One day, I lost my best friend. And there I am. There's my head and my body. So I decided to go look for him. While I was walking, looking for him, I accidentally stepped on a beehive, and the bees came around my head. I was so worried about it that I saw a pond, and I decided if I jump in that pond, those bees would go away. So I jumped right in that pond. The bees weren't a problem anymore. But I looked over in the distance and I saw a hill. And I said, maybe my good friend's up the hill. So I went all the way up to the top of the hill. And do you know what I saw up there? I know this is different, but there were 2 doors. And 2 doorknobs. I tried the first door, but it was locked. And I decided, well, maybe the other door's open. So I tried to open that door, but it was also locked. So I said, well, I guess I'll go back down the side of the hill. And I went down the side of the hill, and look who I found. I found my good friend. Can you tell what it is? It's a dog. So now you can try to tell the story yourself. Are you ready? Let's try to back it up. We started out with ourselves, remember? Here we are. We just lost our good friend, didn't we? So we decided to go look for them. Do you remember what we stepped on? Uh-oh, that's right. It was a beehive. What happened after we stepped on the beehive? Yeah, we had bees around our head, didn't we? And how were we going to get rid of those bees? Yep, we went ahead and jumped into that pond that goes all the way around, didn't it? And we didn't need to worry about the bees anymore. But we saw a hill in the distance. You remember the hill? The hill was at the top. Like that. What was at the top of the hill? 2 doors, that's right. We had 1 door and 2 doors, and we tried to open the first door, didn't we, with the doorknob? It was locked. We couldn't get in. So we decided, well, maybe we'll try the second door. And that was locked as well. What was the next thing we did? Yeah, that's right. We went down the side of the hill, didn't we? And when we got to the bottom, who did we find? We found our good friend, the dog. You can go ahead and think of a name for your dog, and this is always a very fun drawing story to tell somebody. All right, now, are you guys ready to hear a story about a cat? Yeah, we're going to hear a story about a cat and a very famous artist named Paul Klee. Are you ready? Let's go. Here's our story today, titled The Cat and the Bird. It's a children's book inspired by Paul Klee, the artist we just looked at. We saw his cat. There's the bird. This is by Geraldine Elshner and Peggy Nile. I had everything I needed to be happy in my house with the blue shutters. I had a cozy basket, warm milk and toys, grass to nibble on, and a shiny tag on my collar with my name engraved on it. But my perfect house was a gilded cage. It was locked up tight. The key turned around twice. So from morning to evening, and from evening to morning, I sat by my window and dreamed. Oh, the garden outside was so wonderfully beautiful. When I closed my eyes tight, I could sense the scent of chestnuts, the red leaves of autumn, the soft carpet of moss between my paws, the murmuring of the stream, and high up in the treetop, you. How beautifully you sang. How deliciously beautiful. For ages I would listen to you and lick my lips. I have to admit I wanted to catch you very much. One stroke of my claws, a snap of the teeth, and crack. I felt I could already taste you in my mouth, completely and forever. Uh-oh. But something inside me was even stronger than the urge to devour you. Deep inside, I envied you. You were free, free to fly wherever you wanted, to come and go as you pleased. You were free and I was captive. There's the cat stuck in the house with the blue shutters. So I devoured you only with my eyes, and then I called out to you, "Hello, bird. Your beak is so sharp. You can bore holes in the tree trunks. Why don't you peck at these bars of my prison?" You answered me with a song, "A cat in the cage, what a funny sight." But would I be wise to help you? How can I be sure that you won't eat me up? I looked at you straight in the eyes and said, "I give you my word, plain and simple, a promise is a promise." This was enough for you. Peck, peck. Without a moment's hesitation, you began to peck away at the bars of my cage. Look at that, he's pecking, and now what happened? Cat is escaping, huh? And soon I was free, scampering after you on the roof of my house with the blue shutters. Bounding from the tower to the bridge and from the bridge to the chimney, I sprang into the edge of the horizon, and there I danced for joy in the moonlight. Look, he's dancing all up there, and birds flying. Thank you, little bird. I will never forget you. Your image will always be engraved in my memory, completely forever. Didn't they become friends? At the beginning of the story, he wanted to eat the bird, and then they became friends and he helped him. So here is the portrait of the cat that Paul Klee did. It's an up-close painting. You can see all these lines that he used to make the cat. We're going to do this in a minute. I'm going to teach you step by step how to draw the cat, and we're going to think of something that our cat's thinking about. Is your cat thinking about a bird? Maybe. Maybe some fish? I don't know. You're going to have to think about it. All right, it's time to get started on our art project now. We are going to take our painting done by Paul Klee of cat and bird, and we are going to create our own cat and bird. You're going to need to have a piece of paper. I would use crayons or markers, and if you have watercolor set, that would be great too. So go get, and don't forget your messy map. Go gather your supplies and come on back. If you're not ready to do this art project and you don't have your art stuff yet, that's no problem. You can go to WQLN.org to find this lesson. Go get your stuff and come on and let's go. All right, we are going to create our cat portrait. You should have all your supplies ready. I have my watercolors if I want to use those, crayons, markers. You decide what you want. We're going to start out right here with the outline of the cat's face. So we're going to do this big U, and then we'll do the top part for the ears. So I have I'm going to use a black crayon. And you know, I like to do a little air drawing first. I'm going to use my finger. I'm going to start in this top left corner, and I'm slowly going to come down and around and back up. I always like to practice so I can see how that feels. When I'm ready, I'll use my crayon. I'm going to come down, curve around, and back up. It looks like a big U, doesn't it? Now we're going to do the ears. So I'm going to find the center of the top, It's about here. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to come down right about here. That's probably a whole hand. I'll put a dot. Now I'll get a couple diagonal lines. Those are sideways lines. And I'm going to start here at the dot. I'm going to go all the way to the corner. If you want to go ahead and air draw, go for it. There's one. Now let me do the other side. And two. So we can see that our 3 lines that we've drawn are starting to turn into the cat's head. Now, starting in the center, we're going to do a curved line all the way to this outer edge. This is going to be the start of our eye. And we'll do one on the other side. Now we have to do the bottom. It's going to go a curved line a different way. This one's going up, this one's going to go down. And we'll do one on each side. The further down you go, the bigger your eye's going to be. So if you went down like this, it's going to be really big, and that would be fun. It's up to you. If you make a mistake, that's okay. I had a little bit of a bump here, and that's all right. I'm not going to worry about it. All right, now let's get our eyeballs in here. I'm going to do 2 curved lines, starting at the top, curving around. This is the colored part of our cat's eyes. That's called the iris. And I'll do it on the other side, 2 curved lines. Now we'll get the pupils. You get to decide what kind of pupils you want. Do you want cat slit eyes? Sometimes they have these curved lines that come to a point. Or do you want circles? You can do circles. You can do whatever kind of eyeball you want. I kind of like the look of these cat eyes, so I'll do cat eyes for both of mine. So we have the eyes done, the ears, the bottom of the face. Let's get that nose done. Now, in Paul Clay's art, his cats had a heart shape. What if you don't like cat hearts? Do you have to do a heart? No. Think of another shape you could do. You could do the heart, that looks like that, or you could do a circle. What about a triangle? Or a square? Lots of different shapes you can choose from. You decide which one you like best. I'm going to go down my paper to about here to put the nose. I like the heart, so I'm going to do a heart. Now we're going to draw the bridge of the nose. That's going to come from the outer edge of your shape all the way up to that dot. Do you remember that dot we drew? We'll go all the way up, all the way up. Now we need to get the mouth in. The mouth is going to come from the bottom of the shape and go out to the edge. I'm going to do a little curved line when I do that. Oh, he's looking great. Now let's get those whiskers in. We know a lot of different types of lines, don't we? We know straight lines, we know wavy lines, zigzag lines, thick lines, thin lines. You get to decide what kind of line do you want to use for your cat's whiskers. On the one I drew earlier, you can tell I used a variety of lines. I think I'm just going to do wavy lines on this one. So I'll start and go slowly. I'm going to go right off his face. I think I'll put 3. How many lines are you going to put? If you have a lot of space, you might be able to put a few more in. All right, the last thing we're going to do is put something up in his forehead. What do you think cats are thinking about? On my example here, this cat was thinking about a fish. Think of something a cat might like. On that one, I did the fish. Or, I know sometimes cats sit in the sun. Maybe you want to draw a sun. Maybe you want to draw a bowl of food. Maybe you want to draw that bird. You decide, what is your cat thinking about? Maybe your cat's thinking about you. I think I'm going to draw the sun on this one. And there we have our cat portrait. Now we'll get to start doing some coloring. Think about the colors you want to use for your cat. I do have markers and watercolors and crayons. You decide what kind you want to use. I think maybe I'm going to color my cat blue. So I'm going to use markers this time. I'm going to go to the outer edges first. I always like to color the edges. And then I can go ahead and fill in the shape. Go right over those crayon lines. These are nice, cool colors. Artists always take their time and have good craftsmanship with their artwork. You don't want to rush. Now, if you want to turn these markers into paint, like I'm noticing my marker line is kind of dry. I can get some water and a paintbrush. If you don't have a paintbrush, you can go ahead and grab like a Q-tip to get wet in the water. Let's see what happens there. I have my brush here with my water, and I'm going to put it right on top of my marker. That's kind of going to turn it into paint. So you can go ahead, and if you have a dry marker like mine, just go ahead and wet it, and boy, that's turning into paint and looking really cool. Oh, I like that a lot. Or if you have watercolors, you can go ahead and get your watercolors out. And I'm going to spin round and round really gently. I don't want to dig because that would ruin my bristles. Maybe I want to do some watercolors. When you run out of paint, you get a little more water. Spin your brush in your paint another time. And just like the marker, I'm doing the edges first. If I change colors, I gotta go ahead and rinse my brush. Did you see me do that? I could even use a variety. Maybe I even want to get some crayons and use some crayons in my art. Now the last step, maybe I want to go ahead and do this background. This will really help complete our art project. I think this one I'll do the paint. Once again, I'm doing my outer edges, picking up some more water, spinning in my watercolor pan. If you don't have watercolors, no problems. Go ahead and use your crayons or markers, or you might even have twistables or colored pencils. I'm making sure I go all the way to the edges. Remember, that's why we have our messy mat, so we can do that. These are big areas, so I need a bigger brush here, don't I? If I had a really tiny brush, this would take a long time. I'm almost done. I had a little pile of water in there, so I didn't even need to pick up any water. I could just pick it up with my brush. Most of the time I need to get some water. Oh, this is looking wonderful. So we have just completed our cat portrait, and a portrait is a picture of a person or an animal. In this case, it's an animal, and my cat is thinking about a sun. What's your cat thinking about?
I'm so glad that you were able to join us today, learning all about pets and our families. We learned that artists
love to draw animals and pets in their artwork as well. We saw Andy Warhol and his cat Sam, David Hockney and his 2 dachshunds. We also learned a little bit about Paul Klee and his pet cat. We read a fantastic story talking about friendship and a cat that really wanted to be free, like the bird. And we also saw and met Wagner and learned that even animals and pets are part of your family. They have to do things like you do. We made a connection, didn't we? You go to school and so did Wagner. Pets are a huge part of our lives, and we had a lot of fun creating a drawing of a cat. And I also taught you a little story about a dog. Do you remember our best friend? And it was a draw and tell story. We took it step by step. I hope you had a great time. Thank you so much for joining me today on WQLN PBS, where learning is brought to life. See you next time.